Merry meet and welcome to day 29. This one's a little bit of a doozy. So, how do you feel about death? How has this impact, if I could read. How has this been impacted by your personal practice, or how has it impacted it? So, I don't like death. Shocker. I know. I used to not be very perturbed by it. I was just kind of like, whatever. I mean, it's sad, but whatevs. And then as I've experienced more and more of it, and it's not my own death that's on the table, it's other people, it changes the game a little bit. Because as a kid, I mean, that was always on my mind. Being in and out of the hospital, doctors not knowing what to do, the very real threat of dying. If it wasn't for people who donate blood, thank you, I would not be here. And modern medicine and figuring it out and testing things and being the guinea pig to figure it out, because there's not a lot of us with what I've got. So when it was just my death, it was a very different experience than having people around you dying, because you have no control at all. And it's not a comfy feeling. I don't like not having control. And so to watch people die is just, and like having like a pet die in your arms, there's just no fucking words. And it's not good words to use, and, like, it's just awful. And so, as I've experienced more and more deaths in, like, the past, like, I don't know, 6 years, it's been just like, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I've had a lot of people die. I'm not okay with this. Like, I've had, when I was childhood friends, like, they're, adults that were in there, like their parents, aunts, uncles, things like that, they've died, and you're like, oh god, that's terrible. Then my grandparents, I've had my uncle die, I've had, I think one other dude died, I think he finally passed, and like, we've had, obviously, pets die, we've had people on, people online that have passed, celebrities have passed that we, cared about, and then, like, recently, like, we had basically my mother-in-law pass away. We're not married, but, I mean, we've lived together for, like, 3 years, so, like, all intents and purposes, we're married. Like, we have loans together, we split everything, like, we're basically married, but, like, yeah, death changes when it's not you on the line, and you're just surrounded by other people dying, and you're like, what the fuck? And, like, I have a death that's coming up that I'm not looking forward to, which is gonna suck, but is it terrible to have, like, a self-promo on this topic? Because, like, it feels evil, but at the same time, if you are pagan, and you need a book on, like, death rituals and recipes, I have a book called Death Rituals and Recipes. I will link it below. I wrote it after my mother-in-law passed, and I was writing up all of these things and rituals that we needed, that we went through, and so if y'all want to buy it, it's available, and I don't know for how much longer. I don't know how long I'm going to keep it up for sale, so snag it while you can, but yeah, like, which kind of ties into how I deal with it in, like, how my path has been impacted by it. I actively turn to my path during those times. That's when it's like, okay, I'm either gonna spiral into very deep depression, or I'm gonna really spiral into, okay, the Morrigan is a goddess of death, and our ancestors have dealt with death for centuries. Like, tens of thousands of years we have dealt with this. We should probably be fine. Like, it's a process every single person will have to deal with. Like, you're not a special snowflake in that situation. Everyone has lost someone that they care about. Well, at least most people. I mean, there's a few weirdos out there that don't have emotions, but for the most part, you're gonna care about someone, and that someone is eventually going to die. And so, like, to turn to your practice, to your path, to turn to the goddess and the god, and to acknowledge that, like, this isn't the end. It's, just energy is never destroyed, it's just transformed. It just changes, how it's presented in the world. Stuff like that, like, you really pull onto that a lot more. But, like, having gone through so many deaths now, like, when I very first started, and it was, like, honoring Samhain, which I've talked about before, but, like, it was fun, and it was like, oh, it's the ancestors, and it's the dead, and all of these things, and you're going to the graveyard, and blah, 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 blah. But, like, it's different when you know the person that's dead, you know? Like, it kind of fucks you up. When, like, especially this last Samhain, as we're standing at the grave of my mother-in-law, and, like, it's still really fresh in your brain, and, you know, the earth hasn't totally settled yet, and the stone wasn't even there, and you're just like, oh my god, this is awful. This is, like, the worst thing anyone goes through, ever. Just that, like, sheer loss that you have is just like, oh my god. And then you just think of all of the other people you care about, and then, like, it's such a mind trip of, like, if you deal with depression and, like, spiraling thoughts, y'all know that some topics you're like, we need to not go there. This is one of those. Like, I will when I have to. Again, it's a known death that's coming. Cancer's a bitch. And so, you know, it's coming. We know it, there's nothing to do about it. It's just a matter of time. And so, you know, I don't know, it's weird. You just kind of have, like, a different mindset. And, like, there's a book that if you want to read through it, I recommend you read through it before a death has occurred, because it is really intense to read through after. But it's called The Pagan Book of Living and Dying. And they have, like, some really kick-ass poems that you can read, and, like, part of a ritual and stuff. And, like, they've got a bunch of different things. If I remember right, it did feel a little bit dated. If I remember correctly, I feel like it's an older book. I didn't finish reading it, so I can't really speak. I read bits of it, and then it was too much for me to go through at that point. We'd already done a lot of the funeral rites and stuff like that. It was more like processing the grief and stuff. But yeah, it really affects you a lot. So anyways, this is a downer topic, and I'm gonna, like, not stick on this one. We're gonna move on to the next one, which is not death. So anyways, I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Blessed be.